My salutations, first of all, before I would start, my salutations to the officials of the Department of Mathematics and Statistics, to the department chairperson, Professor Amila Makodi, which was my former professor during my undergraduate years. I hope you still remember me, ma'am. Let me also thank my colleagues in the Department of Psychology and Related Services for being so active in this endeavor. To our reactors, to my co-speaker, Ma'am Sha, to our reactors, Sir Jeric and Professor Ilyasar. Nice to meet you virtually, sir. So thank you so much for having me here. I'm actually very delighted to be talking about a topic that is very important in many fields, especially in sciences, in social sciences, and in any type of research that aims to somehow uncover the things or the secrets in human behavior or in other social phenomena. All right, so I'm going to be talking about reliability and validity. At first, I was really very worried of how am I going to get through discussing these two very broad and complex topics into just 30 minutes or less. We usually study these topics for like one semester, and I hope that I can give justice to the topics. Okay, wait lang. I think my screen sharing has stopped. Let me share my screen again. Having trouble with my internet connection. Oh my gosh, apologies. So sorry for this, everyone. So red.
All right, while waiting for our second resource speaker, we would like to thank once again the university officials headed by Dr. Habib W. Macaayong, the chairperson of the mathematics department, Dr. Amila P. Makudi, also the chairperson of the Department of Psychology and Related Services, Professor Melanie Maguindanao. And of course, we would like to thank also Sir Ronald Cervosa for allowing us to use the facility room. Right, and of course, we would like to thank our resource speakers and reactors for this afternoon's webinar. All right, ma'am.
I'm still trying to share, sir.
All right, ma'am. Okay, we can still wait. Okay, and also we would like to thank all our participants, both from the Zoom. Okay, we have 204 participants in Zoom, and in Facebook Live, we also have 61 participants. No? And with that, that's a great number of participants. And thank you everyone for attending this webinar. Okay.
Okay, I think it's there. Can you see it?
Yes, about to, ma'am. You're starting to share screen for your presentation. All right, okay, ma'am. We can start now.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much for the patience, everyone. Okay, so let me start. Now, in in the field of physical sciences or in the hard sciences, accurately measuring and calculating for their objects of study is not impossible. You probably know because we have people here from the physical sciences. They have their own methods, they have their own tools, they have their own techniques that makes it easier to achieve accuracy and precision. For example, you want to measure length, you have the meter stick, you have the measuring tape. You can use something as precise as the vernier caliper, or if you want to measure pressure, weight, or temperature, science technology has several methods for that. Now, in the field of social sciences and humanities, what we are usually measuring are things that are not tangible. We are measuring probably social phenomena, psychological traits, and this in itself, they already cover a wide range of characteristics. So in social sciences, we might be studying learning, motivation, cognitive style, interests, attitudes, as what Ma'am Shah has mentioned a while ago. So for our purposes, what we're actually measuring are what we call constructs. You might have heard Ma'am Shah already mention this several times during her presentation. Now, technically, a construct are our objects of study, especially in the social sciences. And we have several tools also in studying constructs. So construct is an informed scientific idea developed or generated to describe or explain behavior. Now, constructs are abstract. They're abstract things. We cannot see them, we cannot touch them. We can only infer their existence from overt behavior. What do we mean by overt behavior? This is observable action or observable behavior, and this might include responses to survey questionnaires. Now, constructs are usually multifaceted and complex. For example, I am currently involved in the research on the factors in influencing COVID-19 vaccination acceptance. Now, there are many factors behind that. And for example, you want to look at motivation, health motivation. Health motivation already has a lot of facets under the broad construct of motivation. So these constructs or variables that we're studying are actually multifaceted and complex. So while in this context, variables in social sciences, like the weight, age, or income, we also study that. These are things that are easier to measure, or as what we have said a while ago. But other constructs like prejudice or motivation, learning, these are considerably harder to measure. So what we're actually studying in the field of social sciences ranges from all of these constructs. And these are just the few of what we're studying. We can study depression, achievement, adjustment, perceptions, preferences, motivation. So there are so many constructs under the sun that we can study. Okay, so now let me go back to this. We know that in any goal of research really is to find truths and deal with them in a way that we can make humanity better. So we must remember that the ultimate goal of research in any kind of sciences is to find the truth and to answer our questions. If in the first place, the tools we are using to answer our questions are inaccurate and unreliable, then it comes with no question that our conclusions might also be incorrect or unreliable, meaning they do not really reflect the reality that we're trying to study. So in order for us to have accurate conclusions, valid conclusions, we need to make sure na yung armas natin ay accurate din, ay reliable din. Because these are going to be the tools that are going to guide us to arrive to the answers to our questions. Ma'am Shah really emphasized the importance of asking good questions to arrive at good answers. This is also related to that. To arrive at good conclusions or valid conclusions, we must also have good and valid tools. So it is really important that we are accurate and precise with our measurements in order to arrive at sound conclusions. So measurement needs to be careful. They need to be deliberate. Now, in the field of social sciences, in which we are mostly using survey and questionnaires, the way that we measure these constructs are through questionnaires. So it comes with no question that we must also put the test into the test. Putting the test into the test. So again, one of the most popular methods of measurement, especially those in the field of social sciences, humanities, and education, is the survey or the questionnaire method. If the hard sciences or the physical sciences have their own ways in measuring their objects of study, and they're very careful about it, they're very precise about it, we, in the fields of social sciences, have the questionnaire, the test, or the survey as our tool to arrive at our truths and at our answers. Let me emphasize this. If the hard sciences value precision and accuracy for tangible things, things that can be seen, touched, or heard, in order to arrive at the right conclusions, then all the more that when we study constructs, we must strive for accuracy and precision. So ensuring the psychometric properties of a questionnaire is one of the most important part of its development. As what my colleague Ma'am Charisse have eloquently explained to you, the questionnaire development is a tedious, process of research, reading the related articles, analysis. So now we wrote the items from various resources. You followed what Ma'am Sha suggested to you in her lecture. So we wrote the items. We made sure that they are ordered well. We made sure that we avoided double barreled questions. So we avoided leading question. So we got insights from the literature, from the experts, personal experiences, several journal reviews. Now, the next step is the psychometric properties of the questionnaire. Knowing the psychometric properties of the questionnaire is somehow, I would say, the moment of truth. Your efforts in developing the questionnaire would all be put to waste if you are not going to check on the psychometric properties of the questionnaire. Now, this is a common mistake, especially in newbie researchers. I often encounter students that do researches that they just sige, gawa sila ng item, gawa sila ng questionnaire, then diretso na sila administer, diretso na sila bigay ng mga surveys nila. Now, that is somehow dangerous, if I may say the right term. No, it's somehow dangerous because, again, it's very important to look at how the questionnaire will perform. To look at its psychometric properties, because again, we have to ensure this kasi diyan manggagaling yung conclusions natin, diyan manggagaling kung ano man yung magiging decisions natin about sa researches natin. So we need to ensure the psychometric properties of a test or a survey, a measure, or a questionnaire. So there is this part of the process when we are able to determine if the questionnaire or test we made accurately measures what it purports to measure. That's the first one. Or is it consistent with its measurement? So again, it is not enough just to measure constructs using any scale that we prefer or make. We must also put the test into the test and to ensure that they have adequate psychometric properties. Now, I know that I can be very frank, but this is important that we need to know. So I'm showing you here an overview of the questionnaire development process. This is actually how it happens. So first you have the test conceptualization. You think about the construct that you want to study, the test inception, and then here goes the test construction, where this is where you actually write the items. This is where you actually do the research, consult experts, and then after having the survey, you do the tryout. Now it's just a tryout, or we would also refer to it as the pilot test or the pilot testing or the pilot study. And then we do the analysis of the first pilot study. So this is where reliability and validity analysis comes in. And then and then from the results of the analysis, we do the revision. We revise the test or the survey based on the results of our analysis. And then we go back again to step 3, which is test tryout. That's the process of how questionnaire development happens. Until we come to a point that we are already satisfied with the reliability and the validity of the test or the survey, that is when we actually do the final data gathering. So I'm going to, I hope that's clear. I'm going to elaborate on that later on further. So I have mentioned about the term psychometric properties. What do we mean by psychometric properties? Basically, this is the term referring to reliability and validity. So first, again, we must ensure that the scales indeed measure the construct that we want to measure, that's validity, and that they measure the construct consistently and precisely. Now, these two can be a bit confusing in the first few times, but it's okay. Or I'll hopefully walk you through it in a way that it's not loading you some information. So you're gonna learn about some technical terms. You might also need to make use of your background in statistics, specifically in correlation. Okay, so before we start, imagine that we have a bullseye. So on your screen, you see a bullseye. Imagine that the construct that we want to measure is the bullseye, that is the center, as illustrated by the picture on the screen. Then imagine that we have a measure, and that is the survey or a questionnaire or any kind of measurement that we use. Now imagine that each time we use our measurement, it's like shooting an arrow toward the target, okay? So our shots are illustrated with black dots. The larger the dot, or the more of our arrows or our measurements landed on that spot. Okay, I hope I'm still audible because it's still raining. It's raining really hard here. So these are our shots so far. We're very far from the bullseye. Okay, we can say that the way that we shoot our arrows is not really that consistent, because as you can see, we are shooting from the different parts of the bullseye, no? So our goal in research really is to, or in developing a questionnaire, is to hit the bullseye. Now, before we start, I would want you to go to menti.com if you have a phone, or you can open another tab. Go to menti.com and use the code 5504164. So you will be presented there with some questions. Okay, are you there? Wait lang. Okay, I'm seeing people. All right. Okay, so we have 3, 4, waiting for others. I really love just a bit of interaction, experiential learning. I'm a big fan of experiential learning. All right, waiting. We have 11, 13, okay. Okay, all right. Okay, I guess we could start. This number is good. So you probably see on your screen, you are aiming to have a reliable weighing scale. Okay, so let's say that you want to buy a weighing scale, and of course you consider the aesthetics, what it would look like, what are the design, and so on. So now you go to the next test, and that is how reliable is the weighing scale. So you have here measurements. So we have here scale A and scale B. Okay, so scale A is 55.65, and second, okay, so yeah, most people answered scale A. Okay, so that's a bit of an exercise, no? Let me share this. Let me go back to this screen. Okay, so where was I? Okay, now when you have your weighing scale, we had the first measurement, we had the second measurement, the third measurement. So in scale A, as you can see here, the first measurement is 55.65, and the second measurement is 54.90, the third is 54.90. For scale B, the first measurement is 53.25, and the second measurement is 55.35, and the third is 50.45. So the question was, which would you rather use? Which would you rather use? Most of you answered scale A. And ako, personally, I would rather use scale A. Why? Because the measurements seem to be closer to each other. Diba? 55.65 is not that far from 54.90 for the second measurement. On the third measurement, it's equal to our second measurement. Ano palang nangyari kay scale B? What was wrong with scale B? Nagpa-fluctuate yung measurement, no? Unless naman kung every second you are gaining weight, you are losing weight, then baka yun talaga. But you are measuring your weight at that one time, no? So the first measure is 53.25. And then, parang grabe ang bigat ko naman. So you tried again, naging 55.35 na naman. And then the third, naging 50.45. So we can say that scale A is more reliable than scale B. Right? Si scale B nag-fluctuate yung measurements natin. Hindi consistent yung weight natin. So parang may mali kay scale B. So that is also how we deal with surveys, we deal with questionnaires, and we deal with tests. Okay, so that was an example, a real-life example of the importance of reliability. This is the first prerequisite to a good measurement. That is reliability. Okay, so any measuring instrument must first of all yield a consistent measurement. The actual measurement should not change unless, of course, if the construct that we're measuring is changing with time, no? So that would be like a valid reason bakit magpa-fluctuate yung weight natin if yung weight talaga natin is nag-change talaga siya. But if it's not, no, parang may problema. Okay, so reliability simply refers to the consistency with which the test measures whatever it measures. So it has something to do with the precision of the test, the precision with which the test measures, no? So remember also that reliability is not a property of the test. Alam, bakit ganon? It actually refers to the consistency of the results obtained. Because actually, reliability can also be affected by other factors, environmental factors, changes with time, changes in perspective, and so on. No? So, reliability is the consistency of the results. And these results can and do vary from situation to situation. So, to give you a better explanation of reliability, let's say that we have 100 people and we are measuring their height. We want to measure their height. So we did measure their height. So we got data with their heights. Now, the data that we have with the height of the people can have several differences with each other. No? So for example, may isa na 6-footer, may isa na 5'10", may isa na 5'5", may isa na 4'10". So it ranges. Now, these differences in their heights can be attributed to two. That is true variance or error variance. Now, true variance, from the name itself, ito yung genuine na pagkakaiba talaga ng height nila. No? But sometimes, in our measurement, mayroong kasali dyan yung error variance. In our measurement, there is error. There can be error. For example, no, the carelessness of the person doing the measuring. Imbis na, let's say, 162 centimeters dapat yung tao, but siguro hindi niya na set up ng maayos yung ano niya, hindi niya na-set up ng maayos yung meter stick niya or measuring tape niya, naging 163 na lang. So that's error, di ba? Or pwede na momentary slouching of the person being measured. Nakakapagod kaya, tumayo ka, di ba? So baka mag-slouch ka, then baka hindi ma-express yung totoong height mo. Or it can be how long the person has been standing up as opposed to lying down and so on. No? So this can actually influence the differences that we observe with people. Okay? So now I hope that you cannot be intimidated with this. Anyway, we have this this is actually from the classical test theory. So we have our observed score. So for example, we did a survey. Then we got a score. The observed score has two components. That is the true score and the error. Okay? And the observed score might differ from the true score because of error of measurement. Now, in reliability, in ensuring the reliability of an instrument, what we actually want is to know to which extent is error present in the measurement. And in making our measure reliable, our goal is to reduce the error variance so that at least we might be a little bit more close to the true score of the person. Okay, I'm so sorry if medyo malakas ang ulan. No, that is something that is out of my control. Anyway, so what we're looking at in reliability, if we want to compute for reliability, what we actually get is the reliability coefficient. Okay, so ang reliability coefficient is a number that can show to which extent is error present in our measurements, no? The proportion to which error is present or absent in our measurement. It's as simple as that. So there are many sources of error variance. It can be the test construction, the test administration, the test scoring, and interpretation, and other sources. One very important thing that you need to do to ensure the reliability of your survey is to follow the proper way of constructing your items, the proper way of developing a survey questionnaire. That is why kung narinig niyo kanina sa discussion ni Ma'am Sha, that was actually those are actually ways that can reduce the error in your measurement and increase the reliability. For example, yung double-barreled question, di ba? Meron kang double-barreled question sa survey mo, tapos hindi naintindihan ng participant kung ano ba talaga yung tinatanong mo. So nagpahing-sagot lang siya kahit hindi niya naintindihan. Sumagot lang siya anyway, just for the sake of the survey. Now that is an error na. At ano yung dahilan? It was the way that you crafted your item. No? Or possible masyadong mahaba yung survey mo, tapos sa last part ng survey mo, doon ka naglagay ng mga question, yung mapapaisip ka talaga, tapos pagod na mag-isip yung tao, napagod na siya, hindi nila sinagot ng maayos, basta na lang. No? So that can be a source of error, the test construction. Okay? It refers to the variation among items within a test in terms of how the test was constructed. It is also about the item sampling, no? Yung pag-sample mo ng item. Kasi for example, you want to measure let's say math achievement ng mga first year college students. So assuming na tapos na sila ng high school. So when I say achievement, ano yung na-achieve nila so far? Ano yung na-learn nila so far about math? Pero yung laman lang ng math test mo ay about geometry lang. So it does not represent all the other kinds of math that we have there. We have the trigonometry, we have the blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. So yan, error na yan siya. No? How you sampled your item. Next is test administration. Sources of error variance that occur during test administration may influence the participant's attention or motivation. For example, nagbigay ka ng questionnaire tapos ang pangit-pangit ng papel. Ano ba to? Tapos, or nagbigay ka ng questionnaire
tapos hindi mabasa yung hindi mabasa yung item, hindi mabasa yung mga words sa survey na binigay mo. Or possible na influences, for example, masyadong mainit or walang lighting masyado na maayos, or grabe yung ingay, masyadong maingay, masyadong mainit, so hindi niya maintindihan ano yung tanong, no? Or another would be like pagod siya while binigay mo yung survey, or possible na kaka-break up lang niya ng boyfriend niya, tapos tinanong mo siya about relationship, nako, no? So that can be a source of error. The test administration and also the participant himself or herself is also a source of error. Now, next is test scoring and interpretation. Ano bang example nito? Nagkamali ka ng scoring, no, sa objective type. Nagkamali ka, let's say, naglagay ka na sa Excel ng mga responses ng participants mo. Tapos nagta-typo ka, or mali yung interpretation mo sa sa score ng survey or ng participants mo, no? Other sources, ito naman siguro yung sa research na, like sampling error, no? Sampling error and so on. Okay, yes, Sir Jeric, time limit can also that's also something that is to be considered if the test is a speed test or a power test, no? Ang kadami mong binigay na items, I mean kung isa kang teacher, you gave quiz, tapos ang dami mong items, tapos 30 minutes lang yung binigay mo na time for that quiz, then that can be a source of error variance. Yes, so there are many sources of error variance, and it's important that we know what are the sources, what are the sources of errors, so that we are able to minimize them, at least in our test construction and in our test administration and test scoring. So medyo technical talaga, no? So reliability actually has many kinds. We have the test retest, we have the alternate or parallel forms reliability, split half, internal consistency, and the Interrater reliability. And these kinds of reliability can be used depending on what is the purpose, or what is the purpose of the survey that you're doing or the test that you're employing. No? Now, before we start with all this reliability and validity, I think that I need to discuss this correlation, because for you to understand reliability and validity, you need to have a good understanding of correlation. And I know that some of you might already be knowledgeable about what correlation is. So basically, correlation is the relationship, the magnitude, and the direction of relationship between two or more variables, no? As you can see here. So we actually get a correlation coefficient. So there are many kinds of tools that we can measure, that we can look at the correlation of variables. We have the Spearman-Rho, Pearson-R, and many other things. So after calculating for a correlation coefficient, we get a number that ranges from 0 to +1 or -1. And the positive here, or the negative, implies the direction of the relationship. If it's positive, it means that it's positive. Like if variable X increases, variable Y also increases. Now, when I say negative, variable X increases, variable Y decreases. So if we're going to graph it, no, this is an example. So variables can have like positive correlation, they can have negative correlation, or no correlation at all. Now, this is very important in understanding reliability and validity, because correlation is a statistical tool that we use to have evidences for reliability and validity. And mostly talaga, no, it's about correlation talaga. But we also have to be careful, because correlation does not imply causation. Hindi ibig sabihin na related sila, they cause each other na. So, yan, it's just good that you know about correlation. So again, correlation is relationship between two variables, no, the magnitude and strength of relationship between two variables. So I just thought that I would put this here, although I know that some of you might know this already. So we have people from the stat department, they're so expert on this. So I just need maybe to refresh this for those who did not have a stat course yet. So yan, reliability. Okay, why is this important? Kasi in looking at reliability, we actually correlate things. So first, reliability is the test retest. So it involves administering a test to a group of individuals and retesting them after a suitable interval. So what we're actually looking here is the consistency between two measurements of the same construct administered at the same sample at two different points in time. For example, we have a depression test. So we have same persons, same symptoms. We administered it in we gave the test first administration, and then we allowed a bit of time to pass by, and then we administered the second administration. We administered the test again, no? And we correlate the scores from the first and the second administration. And if the correlation is high from the first and the second administration, it means that there is retest reliability. However, note here that we need to pay attention to time interval. Okay, for example, nag-test ka ngayon sa depression test, tapos nag-test ka ulit bukas, then possible na you really have the same same symptoms. But let's say no, people change. 'Di ba? Depressed siya ngayon, 2 years later masaya na siya. Let's say that you administered it ngayon and then 2 years later ka ulit ng second administration, then of course magkaiba talaga possible talaga na magkaiba na yung score because there was possible na marami talaga ang naging changes sa buhay niya. So you need to pay attention to the time interval. Okay, so it's also critical. So the longer the gap, the greater is the chance that the two observations may change. Okay, so meaning lower yung retest reliability mo. Also, pay attention to practice effect. Like, of course, from the name itself, practice, if you're able to take the same test twice, of course, memorize mo na yung question, memorize mo na yung diba? So, sasali siya sa error variance. So that's retest reliability. Okay, I'm gonna be very, very brief for this. So I still have validity. Next is split half reliability. It's the measure of consistency between two halves of a construct measure. So for example, we have 10-item measure of a given construct. So we randomly split those 10 items into sets of 5. So we have items 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And then we administer it to the same set of people. And then calculate the total score for each half for each respondent. And then we correlate the total scores in each half of this measure. And it is split half reliability. So the longer the item, the longer the instrument or the measure, the more likely it is that the two halves will be similar. So this actually pays attention to item sampling and also the homogeneity of test. Now, what do we mean by the homogeneity of test? It's about the test measuring only one construct for one test. Okay? We have to make sure also na yung isang test, especially if homogeneous siya, we meant it to be homogeneous, then one construct lang talaga yung mini-measure niya. So that's split half reliability. And next is the Interrater reliability. This kind of reliability is more useful when we have raters or we have observers. Okay, so this is a measure of consistency between two or more independent raters of observers or observers of the same construct. So for example, we are doing a class observation on how classes takes place in the university. So we can have two raters having the same rating sheet, observing the same classroom, same people, same time, same teacher. And then we have rating 1 for the first rater and we have the rating 2 for the second rater, and then we correlate this. If mataas yung correlation ng dalawa, if it's sufficiently high, then it means that we have an evidence for Interrater reliability. However, we also have to pay attention to the rater's subjectivity because baka magkaiba yung pagkaintindi ng bawat rater, di ba? Iba-iba yung perception niya sa behavior niya yan. So that in Interrater reliability, we are able to somehow pay attention to the subjectivity of the rater kasi it's about the consistency of their rates, of their observations. So that's Interrater reliability. And next is the alternate or the parallel forms of reliability. So this is actually useful in the educational context, like if, for example, when you are having a math test, for example, and you want to divide the section into two to alleviate cheating, para ma-lessen yung cheating and sharing ng ano. So having a parallel form is also good. For example, meron kang estudyante, hindi siya nakatake ng test on that day of the exam, tapos kailangan mo siyang ipatake ulit ng test. It's tricky to administer the exact same test, but instead you can have an alternate, no? So this kind of reliability is useful for alternate and parallel forms of surveys. So for this, you have one construct, you have the form 1 of the test and form 2 of the test. Now the aim here is you are measuring the same construct, more or less. Okay, it's just that you have 2 forms for it, 2 versions of it. But the goal is they're measuring the same construct. So you have score 1, score 2, you correlate them. If the correlation or the coefficient is sufficiently high, then that can be an evidence for alternate or parallel forms reliability. Now, this is the most popular reliability coefficient. That's the internal consistency. It's a measure of consistency between the different items of the same construct. Okay, so it actually looks at as simple as, it's actually complicated yung ano na yung computation na, but to not to get too technical, it takes each item of a single test. So item 1, item 2, item 3, and then correlates it with every single other item on the test. So correlate ng correlate ng correlate ng correlate. So Cronbach's alpha is usually used for internal consistency, but it's a statistical tool meant to measure the average inter-item correlation of the test. So yeah, we have Cronbach's alpha, and this can be easily accessed in SPSS. So isang click lang. So internal consistency is for homogeneous tests. For those tests that are measuring just one construct. Okay, just one single construct lang talaga. So far, those are the common kinds of reliability. Now, our next question is, how do we make our measurement more reliable? Simple. We reduce the sources of error. Hindi naman siya simple gawin, pero this can help us making our measurement more reliable. We reduce the sources of error because, as you can see here on the circle, the observed score that we can have can be attributable to the true variance or the error variance. It can be error due to test construction, due to test administration, or it can be like an unknown error or the scorer error. So one thing that we can do to make our measurement more reliable is to really reduce the sources of error. So usually this is done by really crafting the items well, really analyzing them well, designing them well. And when you administer the survey, you also make sure that it is somehow standardized. Like there are really no errors in your questionnaire. If it's a Google form, clear na talaga. Anyway, Google now, when we do surveys, is usually online. So that actually helps in making our measurement more reliable. No, that's actually a very big help. So, ayan. Okay. So the reliability coefficient interpretation and use. Now this is probably a question that has been ringing in your mind. How high should the reliability coefficient be? How high is high? How enough is enough? So we actually have here a rule of thumb that is given to us by George and Mallory in 2003. How high the reliability coefficient is actually dependent on the purpose and the importance of the decisions to be made. If, for example, you're having a test, it's a medical test, no, at life and death situation siya. It's for a life and death situation or a very, very important decision that you're going to make. You cannot have a 0.7 lang na reliability coefficient. It has to be 0.9 or 0.8. Okay, so you have here interpretation of the reliability coefficients. So 0.5, less than 0.5, that's really unacceptable. Greater than 0.5, poor. Greater than 0.6, questionable. 0.7, acceptable. This is the acceptable level. By convention, ito talaga yung acceptable na level, especially for research purposes. But of course, if you're going to use a survey or a questionnaire for important decisions, life and death situations, or you are going to be diagnosing something or someone, a greater reliability is required. So how high should your reliability coefficient should be? Again, it depends on the purpose and the importance of the decisions to be made as a result of your measurement. And I hope that I made that clear. Okay, so ngayon, it's not enough. Reliability is not enough because we can be very reliable. As you can see here on our bullseye, we can be reliable, but we're shooting at the wrong place. We're shooting our arrow at the wrong place. So reliability is not enough. Okay? It's just one part of ensuring that our survey or our questionnaire is good, because we actually have to look at the validity. Now, this is the goal. Reliable and bullseye. Diba? Nasa center talaga. Okay. So, validity is actually the agreement between a test score or measure and the quality it is believed to measure. So that's validity, and it's the most important. It's actually the most difficult then to secure. It questions or it asks, does the test measure what it is supposed to measure? Okay. Now, I love a simple activity na naman. So I would want you to go again to menti.com and use the code 50504164. Okay? So let's go to menti.com and have the code. Click menti.com and use the code 50504164. Okay, sige. So, ayan. We have here some items. You might probably seeing here. Wait lang ha. Okay, leaderboard pa yan. Sorry, ito pala yung mga nanalo kanina. Oo, plus 1,000 daw kayo. Oh, 1,000 P daw kayo. Okay, let's go back here. Okay, let us say you are interested in measuring aggression. Okay, aggression. I hope that you're familiar with that. It's a very popular term. Now, there are items here, 6 items. And would you maybe rank the items in terms of how well you think they are measuring aggression? So which of these items do you think is really measuring aggression? So you can rank them from 1 to 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, isa lang yung nakikita ko dito. Where are the others? Okay. Four. All right. Okay. Aggression. Whoa. Is sports related to aggression? Okay. Again, what we're measuring is aggression. So we have 5 people waiting for the others. Okay. So rank them. You can actually press it on your phone. You can rank them. First, second, third, fourth, 5, 6. Okay. Wow. Wow, you're so good. You could be test developers, you know. Okay. All right. So our leading here is, yan, do you get angry easily? Okay. Ang next naman is, have you been arrested? Okay. Naglipat, okay. Nag-take over. See, have you been involved in physical fighting? Third item, have you been arrested? The fourth leading is it hard to control your anger? Ano ko yung meron sa 5 at saka sa 6? Do you enjoy playing sports and do you sleep with your socks on? 32. Wow, you're so good. Okay. All right. Okay, so ayan, so we can see here na ang first talaga is, do you get angry easily? Second is, have you been involved in physical fighting? Third is it hard to control your anger? And fourth is, have you been arrested? Fifth, do you enjoy playing sports? And sixth is, do you sleep with your socks on? Wow, you're so good. You could be test developers because you're so good at identifying items that can be suitable to measure aggression. So, all right. So that was actually an exercise just to give you an experience of how items can seem like they are measuring something, but hindi pala. Okay. Maybe you are familiar with this term already, face validity. Okay. Face validity is simply the mere appearance that a measure has validity. Now, in our simple exercise kanina, I told you that we're measuring aggression. And the first talaga na item that is, do you get angry easily? Okay, because it seemed to be measuring aggression, and that's good. Ang second naman is yung, ano ba yun? Do you get into physical fights? And the third is, are you having hard time controlling your anger? And last one is, have you been arrested? Now, yung dalawa, no, yung sports at saka sleeping with your socks on, these are items that are somehow not face valid because they do not seem to be measuring aggression. Meaning they're irrelevant to our construct, which is aggression. So, I encountered this issue a lot of times with some clients, no, saying that they already checked for the face validity of the questionnaire. Now, face validity is somehow important, no? But the question is face validity true validity? Just because something seems to measure that thing, does it really measure it? No, hindi pwera na gwapo, magaling na kaagad, matalino na kaagad, mabait na kaagad, no? So we should not be deceived by appearances. Okay? So for example, meron tayong measure na is supposed to measure your English skills, how well you are in grammar, constructing sentences, diba? So if there are items about grammar, if there are items about parallelism, then say na, oh, this is really measuring my English grammar skills, diba? And this would, if ikaw yung test taker, it would really boost your motivation. Okay, I want to answer this because it's really measuring what it seems to measure. Okay, so it's somehow important. Face validity is somehow important, but it is not a true validity. Do not be confused. Face validity should not be confused with actual validity. Many tests may seem valid, but when actually tested for validity, they do not hold up. Okay? Actual validity is independent of its face validity. So we need to really check with the validity of our measure by using statistics and validity validity evidences of validity. So we need to check with the evidences of validity. So I present to you the Validitytriumvirate. There are actually three kinds of validity. We have the content validity, the criterion related validity, and the construct validity. So let's discuss it one by one. No? Ang content validity. Nakatry na ba kayo nito na you studied for an examination and known almost everything about the book na, only to find that the professor has come up with some strange items that do not represent the content of the course, no? Todo review ka tapos hindi lumabas yung inaral mo sa exam. If you were once a college student or a high school student, you might have experienced this. Nag-aral ka, pero ni isa walang lumabas, no? Ang hirap nun. So if this happened to you, you may have encountered a test with poor content validity or poor content related evidence for validity. So content-related evidence for validity of a test or measure considers the adequacy of representation of the conceptual domain the test is designed to cover. So it actually refers to whether the items of a test cover the range of items that are necessary to test the construct that test is supposed to measure. So let's go back again to our example kanina no, na you were trying to measure math achievement of first-year college students. Okay, first-year college students. Pero, yung lumabas lang sa test, about geometry lang, no? About ano lang, about geometry lang talaga. Diba? So, it can really make you question na this test does not seem to adequately sample the universe of math. Diba? If you are a researcher, you are really good with, diba? There is this sample, you have population, diba? And in order for us to get a good representation of the population, we need to get a representative sample. That is also how it is in item construction. You also need to make sure that your items are representative, because math can be many things. Math can have like many multifacets. Math can talk about many, many things. But if you're just measuring just one aspect of it, you're not covering all the items that is necessary to measure math achievement, then you will have poor content validity. So, yan. Usually, ang content validity is evaluated with the help of independent experts. So dito na papasok yung magpapatulong ka sa mga experts na, hey ma'am, sir, ito yung mga ginawa kong items. Do you think I need to add more, or do you think that this item is essential or not essential? Okay? Ano ba yung items na kailangan ko pang idagdag? Ano ba yung items na hindi naman kailangan, hindi naman relevant? So that's content validity. And one of the most common talaga na practice in having evidence of content validity is you get the content validity ratio, or sometimes called the CVR or CVI, content validity index. No? So in this method, you get items and then you get experts, and then you make them rate of whether the item is essential or not essential. So this is usually taken care of during test development. Okay, so next one is criterion related validity. This is measured by comparing the test of interest with other outside measures of the same construct. So this is actually two, yung concurrent tsaka predictive. So just a brief overview lang of how criterion validity happens. So first we discussed concurrent. For example, you are developing a new depression test. Okay? You can actually correlate it with the results on Beck depression inventory. If mataas yung correlation, then that is an evidence for high concurrent validity. Another one is yung predictive validity. Yung SASE. Oh my gosh, this was so controversial. No? This relates to the measure being administered on how is it able to predict, from the name itself, predict something in the future. So is SASE really predictive of potential success in college or GPA? So we can do a study on this, like you correlate the SASE and the GPA. If mataas yung correlation, then that's a proof, or that's an evidence for predictive validity. So yan. Construct validity. This is the most important type of validity and the hardest type of validity to prove, but the most convincing. Now, this is the last type of validity. So in this kind of validity, we look at whether the test is significantly associated with the theoretical trait it claims to measure. Like, for example, we say that this test is measuring aggression. Does it really measure aggression? So it actually relates to the test or the survey to the theoretical construct itself. If you're measuring perceptions, does it really measure perceptions? Okay, so there are actually evidences of construct validity. It can be homogeneity, no? When describing a test, if it's homogeneous, if you have an or you did a factor analysis and you found out that there's only one factor in your test, and this can be a proof na homogeneous siya, meaning that it's measuring one construct only. Okay, I know I'm measuring time. I'm losing time anyway. Next is evidences of changes with age. So some constructs are expected to change over time. For example, yung reading rate. And this tends to increase dramatically by age 6 to early teens. So if your test aims to measure, for example, reading rate, then it is expected na magkakaroon ng changes with age. Next is pre-test or post-test changes. Now, this is particularly applicable if you have like an intervention of some sort. For example, depression yung test mo, tapos na first administration ko for depression, and then you had provided counseling, psychosocial support to these people, and then nag-administer ka ulit ng depression, and then you found out that the depression actually lowered down, then that can be an evidence of construct validity. It means that the depression decreased as a result of your intervention. Next is distinct groups. Like ito naman, you contrast or you compare groups from each other. So if you have group 1, group 2, let's say that you're making a test for depression. Now, group 1, let's say na ito yung mga walang diagnosis ng depression. Group 2, ito yung may mga diagnosis ng depression. So you administer your depression test with them. And if you found out na in group 2, na ito yung may mga diagnosis ng depression, mataas yung score nila sa depression, tapos yung group 1, ito yung walang diagnosis ng depression, mababa, that can be an evidence for construct validity. Next naman is convergent evidence. Ito naman, from the name itself, converge, you relate it, you correlate your test with other tests that is similar or somehow that is assessing the same construct. Okay, that's convergent. Next is discriminant evidence. Ito is you correlate your test to another test that is not really related to your construct of interest. Okay, so usually ginagamit siya multi-trait, multi-method matrix. So it's very complicated. So this can be evidences of construct validity. And last one is the factor analysis. Now, factor analysis is a set of, it's actually a mathematical procedure designed to identify factors of or specific variables that are typically attributes or characteristics on dimensions on which people may differ. So it can be an exploratory factor analysis or a confirmatory factor analysis. So in getting evidences for construct validity, you can always consult an expert or consult a statistician to assist you with that. All right, so we're done with validity. And I'm showing you this, this questionnaire development process. So content validity happens in the test construction pa na stage. Okay, diyan content validity analysis ka na. Then you do the test tryout. After the test tryout, you analyze it. Diyan papasok yung reliability and validity analysis. And from this, you can either remove items, revise items, add more items, revise ka, and then you administer the test again. Okay, we're almost done, no? So final thoughts lang on reliability and validity. A test, a measure, or a questionnaire can be reliable but not valid. Okay? So reliability is a prerequisite to validity. And actually test use can actually also be, test use can also influence the reliability and validity of a test depending on the context and the target population. So I have this experience, for example, you are measuring, you're measuring attitudes, no? But your questionnaire is English. English yung questionnaire mo, pero yung target population mo ay those people who are non-English speaking, or kung meron man, maliit lang yung comprehension nila sa English. Then, possible na you're not measuring attitudes na, but you're actually measuring English skills. No? So you have to be careful also on what is the purpose of your test and the target population. So in choosing your test or in crafting your test, you have to have the participant or the target population in mind and cater it to their needs, to their capabilities. Okay? So yan, scoring and interpretation of scores are also important. Okay? Dapat as much as possible, wala tayong error dito. And yan, adapting already established questionnaires can be a good practice, especially if yung questionnaire na yon is really involved with your research. And consult if my questions, consult, research. So I guess that's it. Thank you so much, everyone. I would just like to leave you with this quote. A good designer has a lot in common with a good researcher. Both hunt for excellence and perfection. And you have to really focus on the details. And you don't really know what the final result will be before you have it. So in your survey questionnaire development, in making your tests, in making your measures, may you be a good designer. Thank you so much, everyone. These are my references, and I hope that I contributed to your knowledge. If you have any questions, please do let me know. Sorry for taking so much time. It's a complicated.
It's all right, ma'am. All right. So let's give a virtual applause, please, to our second resource speaker, Miss Aufe G. Faliado from the Department of Psychology and Related Services. Okay, thank you so much, ma'am, Aufe, for that interactive discussion on the topic reliability and validity of tests. So like the previous first topic, so developing a good survey questionnaire. So reliability and validity of tests is also a very essential part in research undertaking, especially that these are the fundamental features in the evaluation or evaluating any measurement instrument or tools that we use for a good research. So with that, I hope that all our participants, especially our dear students who are with us, have learned something from the lecture of our second resource speaker. And now we also invited another reactor from the Mindanao State University Iligan Institute of Technology, and it's my pleasure to introduce him this afternoon. Okay, our second reactor for this afternoon is a graduate of Master of Science Education, major in Physics, and Master of Applied Statistics in MSU Iligan Institute of Technology. He serves as an Assistant Professor 4 in the Department of Science and Mathematics Education at MSU IIT. He has published and co-authored various researches in the field of physics education and has been a member of university-approved research projects. His research interests include physics education and item response theory and modeling. Please help me welcome Professor Eleazar V. Malikuban.
Okay, hello. Am I heard? Am I clearly heard?
Yes, sir.
Okay. A pleasant afternoon, everyone. Assalamualaikum. Kudos to the organizers of this wonderful event, the Dean of the College of Natural Sciences and Mathematics, Dr. Aringa, the Chairperson of Mathematics Department, Dr. Makudi, the Chairperson of Psychology and Related Studies, Professor Maguindanao, Coordinator of Statistics Center, Professor Viado. Of course, the speaker of the second topic this afternoon, which is on reliability and validity of tests, Professor Aufe Faliado. Yung kudos din sa first speaker natin kanina, si Professor Bara, ma'am, as well as co-reactor kanina, my friend, Professor Jerry. Okay, it is really my pleasure to be able to attend this virtual event this afternoon, and I am looking forward na may marami pang mga darating pa na mga webinars like this na very interesting. So before I'm going to share my reflection on Professor Faliado's presentation this afternoon, which is really interesting and interactive, of course, may mga takeaways muna ako na i-share sa lahat. Although ang topic on validity and reliability is really broad, I agree with ma'am, but I believe na busog tayo sa information this afternoon, di ba? Although I know na marami sa audience natin ngayon ay hindi po stat majors. Pero I'm pretty sure na may mga takeaways din sila this afternoon. Now, the term construct, which is abstract and as mentioned, multifaceted or complex, is one of the targets actually that a researcher tends to measure in terms of reliability and validity. So as we learned kanina, it can be in phase, content, construct, or criterion. Accurate and reliable conclusions, of course, demand or require accurate and reliable tools or instruments, which leads to checking of the psychometric properties of the tools or instruments. Now, for me, in my definition, my own words, for me, validity means a measure what is intended to be measured. Okay, while reliability concerns the extent to which a measurement or phenomenon provides stable and consistent results, and it can also be considered as repeatability. No, agree din ako sa sinabi ni Ma'am Ofe kanina na yung ibang researchers talaga, no, lalo na yung mga newbies natin dito, sobrang excited. Aside na hindi nila ma-inform yung thesis advisors, yung mga panel nila to proceed with the next step, diretso na yan sila kaagad sa data gathering without checking first the properties, the strengths of the instruments. They tend to forget, no, to check first kung nag-follow ba sa standards yung instruments or test nila. Well, I agree that there are several factors to be considered to ensure validity and reliability of tests. However, I can say that it is not easy to deal with those factors due to some reasons. And for me, no, one is the misconception, lalo na pagdating sa sampling techniques. So kaya nga sabi nila, ligtas ang may alam, no? So for example, some researchers, no, lalo na yung mga newbies natin, confused. Yung iba talaga walang knowledge, no? Yung difference between probabilistic and non-probabilistic sampling. Sinasabi nila doon random sampling, hindi pala random sampling yung ginagawa nila. Another thing is the steps to undergo to make sure that the items would target the desired validity and reliability. Mahirap din yun, no? For example, following the steps to minimize sources of error variance, di ba? Na-mention yan ni Ma'am kanina, no? From test construction down to the last step, revising the instrument is, kung titingnan mo yung steps, parang easy lang, but actually it is easier said than done. I think you would agree with me. Okay, now talking about statistical tools to be used also in measuring validity and reliability, like yung na-mention kanina, correlation, meron pang Cronbach's alpha, in fact, meron pa yung Tudor-Richardson, may kasama pang Cohen's kappa, iba pa, mga factor analysis, no? Nakadepende po yan sa mga maraming factors. And for me, one is the type of response. So in this afternoon's presentation by Ma'am Palyado, no? Ito po yung reflection ko, no? So the main objective of questionnaire in research is really to obtain relevant information in most reliable and valid manner. Thus, the accuracy and consistency of survey or questionnaire forms a significant aspect of research methodology, yung tinatawag nating validity and reliability. However, new researchers are confused with the selection and conduct of proper validity type of test to test their research instrument. So, with those reflection, no, for me, bakit importante, very significant yung pag-test testing of test for the validity and reliability. There are certain reasons for that. One, I think, validity and reliability increases transparency and decrease opportunities to insert researcher bias. So yan, ang isa sa mga problema, bias. Okay. A detailed assessment of reliability and validity involve an appraisal of methods used to collect data, which will provide a good relation to interpret scores from psychometric instruments. Another, they are used for enhancing the accuracy of the assessment and evaluation of a research work. Now, without assessing reliability and validity of the research, it will be difficult to describe the effects of measurement errors on theoretical relationships that are being measured. Finally, by various types of methods to collect data for obtaining true information, a researcher can enhance the validity and reliability of the collected data. So yun po, no, that's all that I can say for the presentation of our brilliant speaker for this afternoon. Pero may isang tanong ako sa speaker. Kasi later on, magsusulputan na yung mga tanong, no, ng iba. So para may chance ako na maka-connect with the speaker. Ma'am Ope.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, sir.
Okay,
Hi, sir.
Okay. Ang tanong ko lang po, ma'am ba, so how can we assure the standards of validity and reliability ngayon na ang procedures natin ay iba ngayong pandemic kaysa previous na practice natin before pandemic? So ano kaya yung mga posibleng adjustments dito sa pag-consider sa...
Okay, that's actually a very good and a relevant question, Sir Elisar, and thank you so much for your comment. No, it's an honor to receive such compliments from you, and I really appreciate also that thing you said about newbie researchers not knowing what the reliability or validity type of reliability or validity to use. I think I'm going to answer that later. So in our current situation in the pandemic, usually survey questionnaires are distributed online. No, it's distributed online, and although it's a very different from what we usually know in which we just hand in questionnaires and then wait for it. I would say that having this online questionnaire is actually an advantage in getting results and getting responses from our participants, because first, you lessen error caused by administrator sources. Like, di ba, if yung nag-administer ng test masyadong maldita, parang ay nakakainis naman tong administrator na to, hindi ko to gagalingan, o di ba? So by having actually the survey online, it's actually helpful because it's actually faster, no, mas reliable siya, and you get lesser error because the questionnaire will be standardized at some point, di ba? Kasi when you have survey in paper, there can be a lot of factors like may typo sa papel, or pangit yung papel, or yung testing conditions niya pangit, or nasira yung papel, nakumot, or something like that. This can increase the error variance. Now, having this Google Forms, having this survey actually makes it a bit more standardized, because it can be, there are no other ways. It can be that they are facing a phone or facing a laptop, no? So at some point mas standardized siya, and also when you actually gather the results, when you get the results, you can just easily download the results of the respondents, and you have the Excel form na kaagad, and then you can just input it on SPSS. In compared sa yung face-to-face talaga na survey, kailangan mo pa na ikaw yung manual na mag-input sa statistical software, and that can also cause errors, no? That can human errors, for example, or hindi mo mabasa yung response niya, di ba? So actually, I would say that it's actually an advantage having the survey questionnaires online. It's just that there are some risks that we need to take. There are also confidentiality risks that we need to be very careful of, because it's online. There is possible security breach. So it's important to include that in your informed consent. And also there can be that your respondents can have low internet connection, diba? So that's one thing that you need to consider, because you might not be getting information from those people who don't have internet connection, who don't have devices. So kailangan mo rin siyang i-consider sa research design mo. So it has pros and cons. So it actually just depends on which you're going to focus and how you're going to deal with the cons, how you're going to maximize the pros. So I think that's it. Also, Sir Elisar, I would just like to answer also.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
I would just like also to give my thoughts also on your comment kanina that some newbie researchers are not knowledgeable about which type of reliability or validity to use. Now, I have presented you different kinds of reliability, different kinds of validity. you need to somehow study the purpose of your test, because that will be dependent on which type of reliability or validity that you are going to use. So study your questionnaire, make sure that you are reminded of the purposes of your research, your objectives of your research, and the purpose of the questionnaire. And if you're really troubled, you can always consult. Psychometricians or statisticians are very good on that. I think that's it. Thank you so much, Sir Elisar.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am. Very much appreciated. Thank you, Sir Red.
All right, thank you, sir, Ma'am Alfe. Okay, that was Miss Alfe G. Faliado from the Department of Psychology and Related Services, and Professor Elazar B. Malikovan, from the Department of Science and Mathematics, Education of MSU IIT. Thank you so much, ma'am, sir, for that wonderful exchange of ideas about the second topic that we have this afternoon. Right, before we proceed to the Q&A portion, I would like to request our participants in Zoom to accept the invitation as panelists